For a new government. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, March 13. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Grenadians are awaiting general election results after casting their ballot during a largely peaceful and incident-free vote on Tuesday. The 264 polling stations opened at 6 a.m. and closed at 5 p.m. And officials are now at the stage of counting the ballots to determine who will govern the Eastern Caribbean nation for the next 5 years. The first preliminary results are expected within a few hours. Among the early voters on election day was Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, who said he was confident of victory. Mitchell, who cast his ballot at the Happy Hills Secondary School in the St. George's Northwest constituency, which he has represented for more than 3 decades, said that this is calmest that he has been during an election, and he said he was encouraged by the turnout in some of the constituencies he had visited.
Different views as to the way forward for this country, and 2 different approaches. If you listen to the messages last night, for an example, every message from the NNP was about way forward, about development, about working together. And every message I saw from the opposition, including the leader, was about attacking people who is so bad and who's so wicked and who's so corrupt and so on. And to me, that's not the type of message that should come from a responsible political party, particularly the last time around on a national television station. Maybe you get away with it in the little villages and when people not, the mass of people not listening, but not on national television. But that's the nature of the campaign so far, and I think that's why you most likely will see a massive victory for one side of the fence. I have no doubt in my mind. This is the calmest election for me.
Meantime, Nazim Burke, leader of the main opposition National Democratic Congress, the NDC, is sure there will be no repeat of the 2013 elections when Mitchell's new national party, the NNP, took all 15 seats. He said he believed the NDC would spring a surprise at the polls. Burke told CMC News earlier in the day after he had cast his vote in the Northwest constituency. This is the first time he's running as party leader. We asked him how confident he was of victory for himself and the party.
Well, we are not in the business of counting our chickens before they're hatched, but we are quite optimistic about the elections. I can tell you with confidence that we have done all that we think we need to do in order to prevail. What we believe will now decide the elections is, first of all, whether the people turn out to vote today, and especially whether we bring out the people that we know to be our supporters, whether we can get out the vote today. So the job is still one in progress. We are continuing to work, but we feel certain that if we were to get our people out, the results will be in our favor.
And while there are 7 political parties in the 2018 election race, the fight is mainly between the NNP, that is the New National Party, and the NDC, the National Democratic Congress. Still in Grenada, the Parliamentary Election Office has dismissed reports that inferior ballot papers were being used in Tuesday's poll. Many voters had called into the Grenada Broadcasting Network to complain that there were at least 2 different types of paper being used at some of the polling stations. But the Civic and Education Officer of the Parliamentary Election Office, Ferdinand Phillip, says one quality of ballot paper was made available, and that was what was being used.
So yes, we understand the concerns that persons may have, but we have supplied one quality of ballot paper that is of such a standard that persons, I heard the caller use the word flimsy, and definitely the ballot paper is not flimsy. It is of a good quality material, and once it is folded properly, persons cannot see for whom you voted. We want persons to be aware of that.
And now we're going to just take a quick look at the results that are coming in. This, what you're looking at, is now a live feed from the Parliamentary Elections Office in Grenada. That feed was supplied to media in particular. It's not the general feed that the regular population in Grenada and in the diaspora would see, but this is specific to the media, and you would see some blank from time to time. That is because the feed is constantly updating itself as we go along. As I put my my cursor on the yellow bar that we're seeing right to the extreme end of your screen. It's the NDC bar. That's their party color. It's yellow. And so far, we're seeing that of all the votes counted, NDC has received 13,403 votes. And when I go over to the green bar, which represents the NNP, which is the New National Party, they are standing now at that's 20,470 votes. Now, the concern or the interest would be in the constituency where Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell votes. That would be the Northwest constituency of St. George. And if we just scroll down to the St. George Northwest constituency, and we just put our cursor on that icon there, we just give it a second to come up. We just click on that icon right here. When it allows us to. It's not going to allow us to right now, but it would have been interesting to see what was taking place with Dr. Mitchell in his constituency. When we checked earlier, we select here, that's the Northwest constituency, Dr. Mitchell's constituency. He's coming up against one Mr. Ali Dowden of the National Democratic Congress. And when we look, we would see Dr. Mitchell, who represents the Green Party, is way ahead. Now, we can also try to find the constituency, which is St. George's Northwest. If we go back, we try to find St. George's Northwest constituency, which is where Nazim Burke, the head of the National Democratic Congress, that's where he's at. And we go there. This is Tevin Campbell. This is not the the Northeast constituency. This is Tevin Campbell here representing NDC, and Kindra Maturin, this is in Carriacou, representing NNP. And there's a very tight race there. This is one of the places that Dr. Mitchell and the NNP were quite certain that they would win sweepingly. As we see, for the time being, it's early hours yet, but we can see that the race here is quite tight. So generally, the results are coming in. It's still early hours yet. The polls only closed at 5 o'clock, so there's quite a while. They said at least by 8 o'clock, there should be preliminary information coming in from the Grenada polls. Of course, we will endeavor to give you more information just near the end of the newscast. We're still talking elections in Grenada, and the Grenada election is being observed by missions from CARICOM and the Organization of American States, the OAS. Earlier in the day, local media caught up with the chief of the OAS mission, Nestor Mendez, who said he was pleased to see the large number of people who went out early to cast their ballots. He said it was very good to see the enthusiasm with which the people of Grenada had embraced the democratic process. Mendez and his 6-member team met with stakeholders prior to election day and said he would hold a media brief on Wednesday to discuss their observations. Continuing with political developments, but now in St. Lucia, some residents of Castries Central are calling on incumbent MP Sarah Flood-Bluebourne to fulfill her 2016 election campaign promises. The frustrated constituents hung effigies of Flood-Bluebourne at 2 locations in the city in a show of dissatisfaction with her representation. They say the MP had voted to help youth in the urban communities, but has not followed through on her promise. We get more in this HDS News report.
Wilton's Yard youth want MP Castries Central, Sarah Flood-Bluebourne, to deliver on employment promises. On Monday, a group of citizens who claim they are disgruntled voters took to the streets and staged a mock hanging of the MP.
We vote for the woman, we campaign, we rally, we do all kind of things. And right now, we seen the same set of people that was voting against us. Them people are getting all the work and we are getting nothing. Yeah. You check it on when time for election, you was in the graveyard first every day. You check it every day, you playing with our friend, thing go get better, we go get this, we go get that. Man. And look all now there, we just there the same way, you're like giving us no work, no nothing. Every day we have to come in your office and like it's we begging for work. We can't take it again, Yeah, that is probably sure. We can't take it again, right?
The residents claim Minister Bluebourne during the 2016 election promised job opportunities for the youth. The pledge, they assert, was also made during a recent independence rally. While the disaffected residents have expressed disappointment in their duly elected MP, They gave the mayor of Castries, Peterson Francis, the nod of approval for his management of the capital city.
He never came back to meet with us or to see us or to represent us. For instance, we have a multi-purpose court, as you could see. Only tennis are playing on the court. We have so many young footballers, talented little boys and big girls and little girls playing, you know, they're well talented. We cannot have nobody playing football on the court. Tennis are alone, white people are alone not coming on the court and playing. Sarah Flood, she have to go. She have to go and make way for the mayor because it looks like it's the mayor that doing everything in Central. So she have to go.
Some of the angry residents also expressed disappointment with the incumbent.
Remove Chasney because Chasney not for the poor. It's only for the rich, as you could see.
Sarah Flood Bobre was first elected the Member of Parliament for Castries Central in 1997. She fell out with the ruling SLP in 2004 and lost the seat to Richard Frederick in a 2006 by-election. She was elected Castries Central MP for the second time after winning the seat on a United Workers' Party ticket in 2006.
And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, less activity at Kickham Jenny, but the alert level stays put. We'll be right back after the break.
It's time. Kick back, relax, enjoy the view, the boats, the scenery amidst epic parties, entertainment and nightlife. Antigua Sailing Week. Experience 7 days of non-stop bliss. Chase the race daily by land or up close by sea as the crews compete for glory. Then, when night falls, the harbor ignites. Antigua Sailing Week, April 28th to May 4th, 2018. Antigua and Barbuda. The beach is just the beginning.
Hello and welcome to Caribbean Vibrations, TV's #1 Caribbean show. I'm your host and guide, Alan, and today we're coming to you from aboard the Celebrity Summit as we get ready to embark on a Southern Caribbean cruise and show you some amazing properties that you can buy. The fourth stop on our Caribbean real estate tour is the island of Barbados, where we got to visit Port Ferdinand Marina and luxury residences in St. Peter.
The alert level for submarine volcano Kickham Jenny remains at orange, though researchers say fumarolic activity is not as high as it was on Sunday and Monday. Professor Richard Robertson of the Seismic Research Center of the University of the West Indies said on a live Facebook chat that the center doesn't believe there was an eruption, but that increased activities indicate the likelihood of one.
It's not, we don't think an eruption has happened yet, but it could happen based on the activity. The kinds of activity you have is the kinds of activity you would generally tend to have at Kickham Jenny prior to an eruption. So that's why we are in this state of increased alert, increased levels of monitoring, keeping a closer eye on it. That's what we do when these things happen.
Professor Robertson says one of the main hazards of these activities is the gas that is released from the submarine volcano, which changes the density of the water, making it easier for vessels to sink, hence the 5-kilometer or the 3.1-mile radius exclusion zone. He said, however, that the likelihood of a tsunami from an eruption is slim.
It could produce that eruption big enough to cause a large enough body of water to be displaced to generate any disturbance of the ocean, of the water level beyond, say, northern Grenada at present. And anything further is going to be even less likely.
Right.
But that said, we think that the most likely thing, even now, is for you to have the kind of events that you have had in the past, where you don't even have that disturbance, where what you have is really a lot of the gas in, probably a dome comes out, you might have a small magnitude event, a small explosion, but it's going to be largely confined within that area that's defined, 5 kilometers, not necessarily affecting any land areas.
The Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis and the U.S. Virgin Islands have been labeled tax havens by the European Union. The three were named on Tuesday as the EU finance ministers met in Brussels. The Bahamas' Finance Minister Peter Turnquest and the Minister of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration, Brent Simonet, had travelled to Brussels ahead of the meeting of the European Council of Finance Ministers in an effort to engage the Code of Conduct Group and the EU Council directly. A government statement issued in Nassau said the Bahamas had taken note of the comments included in the EU statement indicating a lack of commitment at the highest political levels, but it said that was regrettable. It argued that it had consistently been engaged with the EU's Code of Conduct Group and has responded to its request. Meantime, the St. Kitts and Nevis government maintained that the Twin Island Federation is committed and fully cooperative jurisdiction in the context of international tax transparency. It added that in the process of engaging with the EU, concrete commitments were made to amend legislation to address concerns, and it said it was optimistic that those commitments would persuade the EU's partners to remove it from the blacklist and allow for a framework of cooperation and dialogue moving forward. The EU finance ministers on Tuesday also decided to remove St. Lucia from an earlier blacklist. They also added Anguilla, the British Virgin Islands, Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda to a so-called grey list of jurisdictions which do not adhere to EU anti-tax avoidance standards but have committed to change their practices. Teachers in Jamaica continue their industrial action for a second straight day on Tuesday as they register their dissatisfaction with government's offer of a 16% wage increase over a 4-year period. Despite instructions from the Minister of Education that all public schools be kept open, several schools were closed as teachers opted to go on work to rule, sick out, sit-in or strike. The Ministry of Education said it would deploy additional personnel to support schools, but fewer students turned up on Tuesday than on Monday. That's when the industrial action started. The ministry said it had expanded its contingency plans with all officers and volunteers out in the field providing support for schools. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says the country's cryptocurrency, the Petro, generated sales of over $5 billion in its pre-sale period. He made the announcement during a meeting with members of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela. Maduro also said the Petro has strengthened the country's international reserves. He said the revenue generated from the sale of the Petro, which is based on Venezuela's oil reserves, will be used to service the needs of the country as well as form part of a wider economic solution. Venezuela's Superintendent of Cryptocurrencies and Related Activities, Carlos Vargas, has reported that over 83,000 people from 127 countries made certificate purchase offers for the Petro. The Petro went on pre-sale in late February and is being used to circumvent economic sanctions imposed on Venezuela by the United States. Stay with us. Sport is next.
My thing is whether or not Flo is capable of reaching all and sundry. You know, whether or not Flo is capable of reaching the kid that, you know, is in Dominica. You know, whether or not, you know, if for example Grenada is playing Jamaica or Grenada is playing Mexico, if that match is going to be televised throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean, that would be my main concern.
My name is John I. James and I used to attend Jamaica College. Projects is a young multi-genred artist, is it? I'm a musician. Fresh sounds, you know, like sonically speaking, like fire, you know, a whole heap of style, everything, you know, in one, into music.
Not only law enforcement seems incapable of dealing with a crime situation, but by separating out intelligence from the JCF, which is the Jamaica Constabulary Force, then they are handicapping the JCF even more, unless there will be some mechanism for gathering, analyzing, and sharing.
West Indies opener Evan Lewis says he wants to continue his good form going into the Super 6 of the ICC World Cup qualifiers. On Monday, his top score of 84 gave the West Indies a much-needed lifeline as they piled up 309 for 6. The Caribbean side went on to beat the Netherlands by 54 runs in a contest reduced to 48 overs per side at Harare Sports Club. Lewis says the victory meant a lot to him.
Yeah, it's very happy for us, knowing that we as a team are a must-win team. So we went out there and first 4 games we won it. It's very good to see that we can be pushing on to Super 6 now. So we just have to keep going and keep going from strength to strength. Yeah, it means a lot to me. Unfortunately, the first 3 games I didn't get a score. Getting a score now is the ideal time. Coming to the Super 6. So I just want to keep positive and keep scoring runs and do whatever it takes for my team to reach the finals.
The left-handed batsman also talked about his partnership with Chris Gayle. The two put on a rollicking 85 off 51 balls for the first wicket after being sent in. Lewis faced 92 balls and struck half dozen 4s and 4 6s, while Gayle blasted a pair of 4s and 5 6s in a 31-ball appearance.
Yeah, the wicket was pretty flat. Me and Chris say, once the guys came up, we're going to go over the top and we're going to be positive in the first 10. We get a good start and we get a push up a total on the board and we win the game convincingly, so it was good. Yeah, it was good batting with Chris. Chris is a guy, you always go after the bowling, especially when the bowlers can be very clinical at times. He set them off, so it was good freedom batting with Chris and pushing on from there.
Noted Caribbean umpires Gregory Brathwaite and Joel Wilson will officiate in the Super 6s stage of the ongoing ICC World Cup qualifiers. The pair will take charge of Thursday's contest between United Arab Emirates and Scotland at Queen's Sports Club, which is one of 4 matches scheduled on the opening day of the second round. Wilson will also stand in Sunday's fixture between Ireland and Scotland at Harare Sports Club, with Brathwaite acting as third umpire. Brathwaite will be one of the on-field officials when the UAE take on Afghanistan at All Hararians and will also stand in UAE's clash with Zimbabwe on March 22nd at Harare Sports Club, with Wilson serving as third umpire. Wilson will then stand in the following day's fixture between Ireland and Afghanistan, also at the Harare Sports Club. Over to football. World Football Governing Body FIFA has rejected former CONCACAF President Jeff Webb's appeal against a fine levied for his involvement in the now infamous FIFA corruption scandal. The 54-year-old, who is currently in the United States awaiting sentencing on corruption charges, was also slapped with a life ban from football and a $1.05 million fine. While Webb accepted the ban, he appealed the fine only for FIFA to announce Monday it had upheld the decision by the adjudicatory chamber of the Independent Ethics Committee. Webb, along with several other football officials, was arrested back in 2015 after security forces swooped down on the Zurich hotel in a pre-raid dawn. He was subsequently slapped with United States federal charges of wire fraud and money laundering and extradited to the U.S., where he pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy, 3 counts of wire fraud conspiracy, and 3 counts of money laundering conspiracy. Webb has already agreed to forfeit more than $6.7 million in cash and assets as part of an agreement with the court. Webb was also a powerful FIFA vice president and a head of the Cayman Islands Football Association. Earlier this month, his sentencing was delayed for a 7th time. Switching to athletics, Trinidadian-born athletic coach Atto Stevens has been deported from the Cayman Islands and barred from re-entering the British Overseas Territory. This comes almost a year after he was found guilty of misusing the ICT network. He had exchanged illicit photos with a minor. According to Cayman 27, which quoted from a statement from the Premier's office on Monday, Stevens is now a prohibited immigrant under the country's immigration laws. CMC Sports also understands that Stevens left the Cayman Islands long before his scheduled departure date, which is March 16th. He has served several months on remand pending the conclusion of his trial. The coach was acquitted of indecent assault and gross indecency charges involving the 14-year-old girl from the athletics club he managed at the time. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's time. Kick back, relax, enjoy the view, the boats, the scenery amidst epic epic parties, entertainment and nightlife. Antigua Sailing Week. Experience 7 days of non-stop bliss. Chase the race daily by land or up close by sea as the crews compete for glory. Then, when night falls, the harbor ignites. Antigua Sailing Week, April 28th to May 4th, 2018. Antigua and Barbuda. The beach is just the beginning.
All right, we just go back again to the Grenada elections to take a look at the data so far that we have. First of all, we're going to take a look at the main screen. We're going to look at, well, what we have here right now. That's the constituency of St. George's Northwest. That's Dr. Mitchell's constituency. And as we can see right here, Dr. Mitchell is leading. There is no doubt, at least it's early days yet, but it's quite apparent that the representative for the National Democratic Congress that's Ali Dowden. He is trailing very badly behind. Of course, as we said earlier, it is still early days. Not all the votes have been counted and no constituency has yet been declared. We're going to take another look at the Northeast constituency where Nazim Burke, the leader of the Opposition National Democratic Congress, well, I can't say Opposition National Democratic Congress anymore, it's the National Democratic Congress. He is in that constituency. That's the Northeast constituency of St. George's Northeast. Nazim Burke. St. George's Northeast constituency, Nazim Burke. We're going to trying to find there. This is a live feed that we're looking at from the electoral office in Grenada. The data changes every time. It changes consistently. It changes as we speak. And so, yes, here we have it now. This is the feed from Northeast constituency. Actually, no, it is not. We're still trying to get the update from the Northeast constituency. But as you can see, the race seems to be pretty tight in some of the constituencies. This one that we're looking at is the constituency of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And it has changed again. We're looking for the St. George's Northeast constituency. That is not in yet. But what I can tell you from what I am looking at here, in the St. George's Northeast constituency, we have 13 completed so far, 13 polling divisions completed so far. And the percentage there of information that has come in so far is 61.90%. Those are some of the constituencies. We have the Northwest, that's Dr. Mitchell's constituency, which is expected to be this one now that we're looking at. We just got it. We're now able to bring you the St. George's Northeast constituency. This is where Nazim Burke is, and also the NNP's candidate there, and NNP is leading in that constituency. Nazim Burke is in the yellow column, and the representative for the NNP is in the green column. That's Tobias Clement. He is leading, but we can see that that is tight. Oh, we'll have to leave it there for this time. It's Caribbean Newsline. Join us again at 6:30 for tomorrow. Have yourselves a good night.